Hi, and welcome back to another Origin Showcase video. In this video, we're going to be going through a Wardling Origin, which is themed after the Warden created by user Null. This one is available on Planet Minecraft, and of course, as always, the link is in the description below. Now, going through this first, it's a 1.16.5 base data pack, which means it might potentially function in 1.17, but might not at the same time. Its preferred version is 1.16.5, as that's what it was created upon. But yeah, with those warnings out of the way, let's actually get started with the Origin itself. First off, the Wardling Origin is a 3-impact Origin, meaning it's got the maximum impact upon your game. Running through the description, you hail from a tribe of shark-human hybrids that evolved at the need for sight. As Wardling, you must rely on your heightened sense of sounds and vibrations to navigate this world. Anyhow, to any of you guys out there who watch a lot of my videos and haven't subscribed already, then why not? It'd be highly appreciated if you hit the subscribe button down below, as over 100,000 people consistently watch more than one of my videos, and it'd be appreciated if just a few of you guys do that. Also make sure you hit the like button. Either way, let's get started into the abilities. First ability we have is blindness. Your species has devolved the need for vision, and you are permanently blind, unable to sprint or land critical hits. When it comes to vision with this Origin, it's very intriguing to even think about. Like, you can see it on screen here how everything is pretty much pitch black, aside from colored pixels every now and then, pretty much depicting on how the actual land looks like. But this isn't affected via your vision, so to speak. With this Origin, that is affected due to your own senses, your heightened senses to detect movement and other bits and pieces around you. And honestly, it's very interesting just by the look of the land by this review already, without any of the other abilities, that this does add a whole entirely new and unique way to play Minecraft that you probably have never actually seen before. One thing I often forget about when talking about certain Origins is to mention the fact that sometimes Origins are not about making them balanced, but making them provide some form of new challenge in the way of playing Minecraft. Because there are some Origins that are weak and underpowered in comparison to the normal Minecraft player, but also provide new and unique ways to play Minecraft, giving you a new and different way to actually play the game and potentially challenge yourself even. For example here, the removal of sprint or critical hits may seem like a drastic problem that might be new to your ability to play Minecraft in the long run, but there are going to be abilities in here to make up and give a different style of playing when it comes to Minecraft. But moving into your next ability, you've got Echolocation. You release a sonic pulse that allows you to sense your surroundings for a short period of time. This action has a 2-second cooldown, and activating it slows you down. Now, what this ability does is it allows you to see all the surroundings around you for, again, a brief moment of time, as it says here in the ability. But one of the cool things about it is it actually goes all the way to the edges of the chunks that you can physically see as your Minecraft character. So let's say you make your chunks that are actually loaded into the game far longer, you can see all the way to the edges of those characters, all the way to the edge of those chunks. And honestly, I feel like just this ability alone is just quite brilliant in how it functions, because it doesn't exactly remove your blindness. It actually goes around your blindness in a completely different way by lighting up or glowing the ground around you, meaning that you still can't see what color the sky is or the clouds or sun or the moon, aside from faint outlines of those two things. You can see everything around you, but it's still as pixelated and as outliney as it was beforehand. It's just far more visible in comparison to what it normally is. This ability is brilliant and beautiful in its own way, to be honest. Like, I find it just to be a really cool implementation on the fact that you're blind. You now need to use a sense to get around that fact and use this new echolocation in order to find out where you are, as well as look at your surroundings. Overall, this Origin is pretty smartly crafted thus far. Moving into the next ability, you've got Seismic Sense. You see the world through vibrations. Textures become difficult to differentiate, but you are able to detect non-sneaking players and entities throughout the walls. The easiest way to describe this is that all mobs pretty much have a glowing effects on at all times, unless it's like a player who's holding the shift button that is sneaking, making it so that their name tag is invisible, therefore making the player themselves invisible unless you can look at them directly. The brilliance behind this entire ability here is just how it allows you to see the world in kind of a different way to what you would normally expect to play Minecraft under. I've already discussed how it looks and the differences beyond it, but some of the other little interesting bits is that a lot of textures do seem to fuse and become super similar to each other. Colors are extraordinarily difficult and ultimately disappear within these vibrations, aside from when you're using echolocation. echolocation. Echolocation is the only time where you can see the natural full color of any form of items. Any other time, it's just a random color that slightly comes close to matching the actual texture for the color that it actually is. Moving on, we've got Born of the Earth. When deep underground, the warmth of the earth will actually give you saturation. Whilst you're underground, you have a fairly decreased sense of vision when it comes to seeing things around you, but whilst you're also on the ground, your saturation won't exactly change too much, because you don't exactly get to move fast enough to deplete it fast enough to counteract the increase you get from being underground. Because you're unable to sprint, most things that are going to deplete your saturation will deplete it slowly, but slow enough that the saturation you get from being underground will counteract it and give you saturation back. It's really weird when you think about it in that way, but you get to understand it once you realize that it just pretty much means that most of the time you don't need to eat too much when you're underground. Moving on, you've got sensitive sensory organs. Although you cannot use your eyes whatsoever, they are still just as sensitive. During the day, your ultra-dilated pupils make looking beyond the horizon extremely painful. Throughout the day, if you're looking anywhere that is pretty much beyond the first like 5-ish blocks around you, you will actually start to take burning-esque damage. You're not actually set alight, but you're taking damage with the fire ticks type of style. You take damage in the same way as a fire tick would go, as well as the noises you get is fire. Kind of way to describe this is if you're looking ahead of you and there isn't any block like immediately ahead of you that you're looking at, you'll start to take fire damage when it's daytime. When it's at nighttime, this doesn't matter. This ability is completely null and void, but throughout the daytime, when you're doing these type of things, when you're moving around, you're better off looking towards the ground or towards the first few blocks in front of you. Pretty much your eyes should be looking almost down, but you should be looking in a downwards looking direction. Otherwise, if you're looking straight forward, there's going to be occasions where you're not going to have any block immediately in front of you and you'll see further ahead of you and your eyes will start to burn, making you take damage in the process. Moving on, we've got rough around the edges. You naturally take slightly less damage than normal. This pertains to a majority of all damage types aside from the whole looking in the horizon thing. You'll take roughly the normal amount of fire tick damage when you look towards the horizon, but in every other form of way, you will take overall less damage. Fall damage you'll take less of. You require to fall longer heights in order to start taking any form of damage. You'll take less damage from mobs, you'll take less damage from burning up in lava, you'll take less damage from pretty much all sources available in Minecraft because you're naturally just better at tanking it. Coinciding it, we've got the well-grounded ability where you are 100% knockback resistance. So you're pretty much knockback resistance to a majority of mobs. There's literally just one exception though to this entire thing, and it's always been an exception when it comes to the immune to knockback, and that is TNT. Unfortunately, TNT's knockback works slightly different to how normal knockback works, so it's a lot more difficult to remove. But this Origin does successfully negate the knockback by a fair portion, but unfortunately you can still get knocked back by TNT. Moving on, you have Cautious. You're blind and therefore you have to be very careful. You have permanent slowness. This ability in itself is pretty explainable. It is really just weak slowness overall. It's only slightly making you slower than the normal walking speed. It's not too noticeable. I didn't actually realize that was a thing until I noticed how much faster I got for a brief moment with the next ability, which we'll go over in a brief moment, but overall you just have a slight bit of slowness. Move it into your roar. By pressing your echolocate key when you're below 3 hearts of health, you exert all of your energy by letting out a loud screech. This will allow you to see temporarily without being hindered by your speed, which is pretty much your echolocation just without losing your speed. Be careful, because after doing this you will not be able to use your echolocation normally again until after you have healed. So briefly explaining how this ability itself works is when you're below a certain amount of health, it will activate this ability, burning up your entire echolocation bar. When you use your echolocation ability normally when you have a fair amount of health, it will only take like a small smidgen of it, which will fully recharge within 2 seconds of it being used, meaning you can use your echolocation fairly often. But as stated here, once you go below a certain health, it will now be a roar instead, which burns your entire echolocation bar. This bar takes roughly 15 to 30 seconds to actually refill properly before you can actually use it again. But if you're still still below 3 hearts or still have low health when you go to use your Echolocation ability again, you'll use a raw instead. Pretty much meaning that unless you heal yourself back up to a certain point in your health bar, you will continuously lose the raw ability, which will burn your entire Echolocation. You do get a slight bit of speed buff when in this ability, but you also get the disadvantage if you can't use your Echolocation ability in the way you'll get used to. Moving into your next ability, you've got Aggression. You grow stronger and faster as you lose health. At half a heart, you are 2 times faster than normal, and you also deal 20 damage with your bare fists. So once you don't have the ability to crit hit people or have the ability to sprint whatsoever, as you get low in health, you start to deal more and more damage, and you also become faster, pretty much counteracting those 2 things. But of course, you are weaker and slower when you're at full health, but the moment you start losing health, you become completely and utter opposite to that, to the point where you could be considered overpowered with the amount of damage you deal, until you realize the fact that you need to be at half a heart of health in order to do that damage, meaning that anything can one-shot you at that point. Anyhow, what are your thoughts on this origin? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think it's good? Do you think it's overpowered? Do you think it's balanced? What's your thoughts on it? If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button down below, as it's always appreciated, helps the video do better, and also subscribe if you're new around here. Massive thank you to my $25 member Hollow the Void and my $10 member 𝓵𝓷𝓷𝓴𝓼, as well as to every other member that I have, as there are now quite a lot of you guys. As I said in the last video, there's going to be the SMP launch for the members this Friday, so look forward to that, and either way, until next time guys, goodbye.